Oh, hang on. Gotta get the video. Hang on. Where is our video? There it is. Hello. How's it going, everybody? we have a lot of fun Marvel stuff to talk about. It's been a really, really busy week or so. So let's jump right into the comics from this week. Let's start off with ShangChi number 6. Benji, what do you think about this one?
It kind of wrapped up the Avengers versus Shang-Chi story in a very bland way. I don't know. It just was like, this wasn't interesting. Maybe I'm missing something.
I mean,
he fights Thor, and then you have a cosmic cube, okay, and then I don't know. I just don't get it.
Yeah, the action was fun. Like there were some cool brief fight scenes. I like the premise of it, but I do agree. I think it kind of, and it's weird because this is sort of wrapping up the story within a story, and I think there is something bigger and more exciting playing out here that I'm interested in reading more of. But you're right, that sort of story, the Avengers story, kind of wrapped up. I think bland was a good word for it, though. I did enjoy the fight one-on-one between Shang-Chi and Thor. That was fun.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. I get it was fun, but it was just sort of like it took up too much of the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and like I said, the story within a story, you're only getting like you said, it's most of this is the Avengers story, whereas the first 2 and the last 2 pages, Shang-Chi story, and that's what I want to see more of.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump into our next issue.
And I guess I don't. We've. Yeah. It just kind of seemed. I mean, and granted, we haven't read every issue since we've started reading. Shang-Chi's. Since he kind of came back like a few miniseries ago, but just kind of felt. Yeah, I guess maybe it kind of depends on how much you think is going to be coming in the future.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because I guess we don't really know for sure what we're getting with Shang-Chi. Moving on to our next issue here, we have the next Moon Knight. This was number 5 in this new series here. I love the character, and I have been enjoying this series, and I think this issue actually picked up for me a little bit here as it's getting more into, we talked about in previous comics we've talked about on here, getting into the superhero psychology, and that obviously takes a turn with Moon Knight. But I really liked him, sort of that therapy session, and him like kind of spilling his guts on everything he's been through and what it's done to his psyche, and really getting inside his head. And then you balance it out with a fair amount of action. I would like to see some more, Moon Knight's hand-to-hand fighting stuff is where he's really fun to watch. But I think there was a decent amount in here to kind of balance that out. What did you think?
I really liked it. I thought there was some good sort of getting in his head, which is hard to do with Moon Knight, but I thought they did it really well. Good setup, good story, good conflict. I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, this was a really strong week for these comics. I mean, any other week probably would have been my pick of the week. And I mean, it could be anywhere from first to fourth this week, really, for me. So I really liked a lot of these issues. Speaking of, let's jump into our next one, Kang the Conqueror, number 4. And we've been talking about this series a little bit now. And it is wildly complicated, but in the best ways. What do you think of this issue?
To me, it was a step back. I just felt there was too much monologuing.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really move us forward. I guess it kind of did, but I mean, it's fun to get the origin of Kang's name. But I just felt there was not enough. Like, Kang is not a character where I think you can really do something fully in like voiceover. Like, you need to have something grounded. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I think it's a little too sort of ethereal. So I'm looking forward. Next week's next issue's the conclusion. But I just felt like this one was a little bit more of like, okay, I don't know. It just didn't hit right for me.
Yeah, to me, this whole series has been sort of that galaxy brain meme, right? Like, it's just like you have your normal comics, and then this one is just, you have to think, almost too much, but then again, sometimes just the right amount. There's so much craziness going on here with Kang fighting old Kang, and then Kang fighting young Kang, and Kang getting the name Kang. There's just so many different things going on here. And sometimes it's easy to lose track, and you don't even really know who, because there are Kangs that you're rooting for and Kangs that you're rooting against. It's kind of confusing, but I don't know. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely excited to see how this wraps up, because I couldn't even venture a guess on where they go with this, because it's just so crazy. And speaking of crazy, we also had our next issue in the Darkhold series. This one was focused on the Wasp. We've talked about this series a little bit. We did the Iron Man issue. We did the Blade issue, which went very different directions. Iron Man was a very much like just a disturbing horror story kind of thing. Blade was a little bit more fun and playful, with obviously focused on vampires. And this one was very real, very grounded, and like really gritty. What did you think of this issue?
I thought it was great. It's very dark. I mean,
yeah,
it deals with domestic violence and the horror of it, and that it's my pick of the week. I mean, I just think it handled it masterfully. You're right; it's a very diverse story. This is not, knowing the complicated relationship that Hank has with Janet in the in comics. You just, it really lets you get inside her head. This isn't the real reality, obviously. This is the Darkhold bastardization of it, but it was, I thought, just brilliantly executed. I'm not usually the one that goes for like the super dark comic, but right. I really thought it was really good this week.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear you say that. Actually, I had pick of the week written down on this one, and then ended up changing it just before we started here. But this wasn't one that I thought you would go for, and I think it that speaks to just how well written it was, and like you really connect with Jan, even though it's not the real Jan, and you know what the story is, but you really feel for her in this variant of it.
Right. I mean, the fact that I would not normally go for this kind of comic shows you how well this one's done. Like, it is so well done that the fact that it's not my style is, it was able to even overcome that. So.
Yeah, and I also love anything where you kind of get thrown back through the history of the Avengers, and you see they pick out some big specific moments. That was really cool to go back and see as well. So, yeah, definitely. I've enjoyed this Darkhold series more than I thought I would. Actually, it's been really interesting, and I would say this has been the strongest point of it so far. So obviously that leaves my pick of the week for the Amazing Spider-Man number 78.
78 BE.
Yes, right? Yes, the 78 beyond, because numbering isn't complicated enough. Now we have to add subtitles. I was surprised at this one, with the Amazing Spider-Man already taking focus over to Ben Reilly instead of Peter Parker, and then we're going from that to focusing on Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. That didn't, this wasn't something I was especially excited to read. And then they introduced the concept of an Avengers simulated haunted mansion, and you had me right from the get-go there.
Yeah, it's weird because this is one of those like in between Spider-Man issues, where it's like focuses on the other characters, and so I'm so excited to find out where Amazing Spider-Man's going, and then this one kind of goes on a different tangent.
Mhm.
But yeah, the sort of Danger Room, Mansion, Misty Knight, everything about it is just, it's not like, it's not part, I mean, at least at this point, it's not part of the main story, but it's so much fun that it you're excited to take that break to enjoy this issue.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I felt going into it. Was like, I this isn't the next step in the story. This isn't what I was excited for, but it was just so much fun. And I mean, Colleen and Misty are such hilarious characters, at least the way that they're written in this series. They're just really fun. And then there's this whole comedic bit with them testing out different Beyond weaponry, and on top of that, again, just the Avengers Haunted Mansion, where it's classic slashers, like the Avengers step into those roles. So you've got like a Jason Iron Man and a Captain America Leatherface and like stuff like that. It was really, really fun to see too. So yeah, just surprisingly enjoyed this just way more than I thought I would. So that wraps up our comic this week, but we do have a lot more to talk about. And to do so, we're going to bring on Becca.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a while.
Yeah. That weird break where we weren't watching Marvel stuff, and yet somehow we were still watching Marvel stuff. And so we have some Marvel stuff to talk about. We might as well start with Eternals, right? We haven't gotten a chance to talk about that on here. And obviously we have a lot to discuss, so we won't spend too much time on it. But
Benji, we can finally talk Eternal.
Yay! Yeah. We don't have to pretend that I haven't seen Hawkeye. No, wait.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess we can. You can share your thoughts on that as well. But what do you want to start with?
No, I can't yet.
No, okay.
No, I can't. I can share my social reaction.
Yes, you can share 140 or 280 characters with us. So.
Lucky the pizza dog. Lucky the pizza dog.
That's
lucky
what I
the
expected.
Pizza dog.
Hawkeye LARPing. That's all you need to know.
Okay. All right. I am looking forward to that. That's for sure. All right. So Eternals, we definitely can talk about at this point, though. And I've been waiting to talk with you guys about it for a while now. So, well, Becca, we got to discuss it a little bit. But Ben, what did you think?
It's a departure.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. It's exciting for the future. Could have used more humor.
Okay. I could see that, because I think Camille Nanjiani is pretty much the sole, humor provider, I guess, in this movie. There's a few spots here and there otherwise, but most of the humor definitely comes from him for sure, which, I mean, I don't think was unexpected.
I guess what's interesting is I'm getting a little tired of the unique setup followed by a monster battle.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had that a while. We had that with ShangChi. We had that with Eternals. We had that to an extent with WandaVision. And not that, I mean, that's obviously a comic trope you're going to go back to. I mean, and you want that. But I feel like it's just been a little too much in a row. But I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah, see, on that note, my thought with Eternals versus Shang-Chi, and only because that's the next most recent movie, Shang-Chi was very grounded in the beginning, and it was about somebody with fighting skills, not superpowers, and then it turned out to be this giant kaiju battle at the end. Whereas Eternals, like, they never steered you in a different direction. Right from the beginning, they were like, here's this giant space god, and he's controlling these superheroes. This is how ridiculous this is going to be. And you kind of expect that going forward. And obviously it's going to get even crazier as we go on with these characters. But Becca, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I guess, I saw it sort of after it already had a tepid reception. I mean, it still made a lot of money, but I'm curious to see how they handle the future, because they set up so many big concepts in this. And will they course correct? Will they stick to their guns? Will they just sort of pretend none of this happened? like I'm really curious to see. It's not often that Marvel takes a misstep. I'm not saying this is, but there's a perception that it is. So I'm curious to see how they react.
Well, I have a question for you on that, but first, Becca, I wanted to get just your overall thoughts on Eternals.
I think I enjoyed it more coming out of the theater. Now that I've had time to like sit with it a little bit and think about it, I'm a little bit less excited, but I still really enjoyed the film. They had 10, 11 like characters that you were focusing on. I think they did a really good job with spending time with each of those. So I liked that we have all these new characters. I liked the diversity of it, as cliche as that might sound. I thought it felt, I mean, as real as like a superhero film can feel. But yeah, like beautiful to look at. But as far as the story goes, I think they could have like tightened it up in some areas or made, I don't know. Kyle and I talked about it a little. I know you guys are going to talk about it more on the podcast, but yeah, there's just some stuff that happened like in the beginning of the film or stuff that happened later in the film that you're like, couldn't you have explained this in the beginning instead of, I don't know.
Yeah,
Too
they
many
definitely
of the
do
characters
that.
are brooding. Like I felt like too many of them were just sad. Like you have Sprite, she should be a fun character, and she's sad. Yeah.
Well, listen, they've been on Earth for 7,000 years. You would be sad too.
No, I know, but like, I'm not. I mean, this isn't like real life. It's a movie, so you want someone. I mean, besides, the one character that is obviously the comic relief. Like everyone else was just miserable. Angelina Jolie's miserable. Greg is miserable. They're all just so miserable. And like it's just not fun to watch miserable. I mean, Icarus is miserable, obviously.
Yes.
And it's just like
he's Rob Stark in another life. He's going to be miserable.
And then even the main character is dating the Black Knight, so she's going to end up miserable. And
a lot of people are going to be miserable in that case for sure.
And then with Phastos, they took him out of his great life to make him miserable. Like so there you go.
Well, Benji, going back to what you were talking about before with, kind of them going off in this different direction, we already have the multiverse starting. We had some stuff going on with Kang. We know, there's a lot of big things at play. We know Fantastic Four's coming in soon. There's so many different directions. Were you expecting them to really play up this celestial angle and how big? Like, this seems as though this could be the big arc going forward now. And it feels like we have 3 or 4 of those at this point.
Yeah, I still think the multiverse is the bigger piece here because there's just more leading into it. But yeah, I don't want them to slow down the pace of release. I love what they're doing. I love having Marvel content, but I think they need to be careful of like Spider-Man 3ing it and just having, too much cosmic stuff happening. Not that Spider-Man 3 is cosmic, but there's too much. It was overstuffed.
Yeah.
And, hopefully we'll have another 50 years of Marvel storytelling, in the MCU. So I don't see a need to rush it. Now, that doesn't mean they will. I mean, they can set this up, and who knows? It could be another 15 years before this pays out. But, it just seems like between What If, Loki, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, WandaVision, like the multiverse just seems to be the focus. And you can't have that plus Celestials, happening at the same time, I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like the multiverse is a big enough concept to let it be its thing and not try and cram too much into it.
Well, and based on what we've seen so far, I'd much rather spend time with Kang or He Who Remains than with the Celestials. So that's just on this cursory introduction for the casual viewer that I think multiverse is more interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I'm just very curious because there is also the Avengers, the Final Host story that seems to like there's kind of some seeds for that being planted here. And I don't know, it's just another huge comic arc that could play a big role in the MCU in the future. So I don't know if maybe that's the long game that's after they get past the multiverse stuff, or if it's for however they plan to do it. But it seems like there's another direction they can go in here.
Yeah, I think be careful. It's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Last week, the madness of all the Disney Plus fun, we got the assembled the making of ShangChi. Did you guys get a chance to watch this? What'd you think?
I did. It was fun, and Simu Liu he's just enjoyable to watch as Shang-Chi, and also as himself being excited to be in the MCU.
Yeah, it was fun. It's weird to have this on Disney Plus Day when like you're not looking back, right? Like I kind of wish it was a week earlier or a week later, just because like it's fun, but you're announced like 1,800 things that I'm more focused on at that point.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, luckily I was able to make this primary focus first thing in the morning, and so I enjoyed it the way that I normally do. And I liked this assembled more than any of the other ones previously, I thought. I did notice in writing my review of it that, which you can check out on laughingplace.com right now, that this was the first assembled with a cast and crew that was largely not already existing in the MCU. So like, you know, you had Black Widow where the stars and everything, they have been around for 10 years. And you had, well, I guess What If was a little bit different, but Loki and Falcon the Winter Soldier, they were all experienced in this world. And now you had all these newcomers. And so it was really cool to just see that point of view from them. So that was a lot of fun. And then, like Becca said, Simu is 100% the Marvel's next big star. And like he just oozes that charisma and that star power every time he's on screen. Like it just it amazes me. So I'm really excited to see the future cast of Marvel with him, you know, right at the front of it. One other new project that actually just came out today, and let me pull this up here. And I'm sure, I mean, it's been a very busy day already, but I'm sure you guys haven't gotten a chance to check this out just yet. But Marvel's Hitmonkey is now on Hulu, and I was really surprised how much I liked it. I probably shouldn't have been, because I loved MODOK. This is still very different though, and the first episode kind of, you know, it took a little bit to drag me in, but by the middle of the second episode, I was hooked and I could not stop watching it. I have already watched the entire series and really, really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. It's along the same lines of MODOK. If you know, it's not for a younger audience, that's for sure. But it's really, really fun. Has a great cast. Jason Sudeikis is hilarious, as you would expect. And so, yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. And it's available on Hulu right now.
It looks pretty fun. It looks pretty dark, but it looks fun.
Yeah, it's as dark as a ninja monkey in a tuxedo can be.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about Disney Plus Day and the craziness that was. Let's jump into our news portion here and just kind of quickly break down all of the stuff we got out of Disney Plus Day, starting with X-Men 97. Animated X-Men series Reborn, I guess. I loved the way they announced this with that Wolverine meme holding a photograph. That was fantastic. What are your thoughts on this?
I didn't watch the original, so I don't have that nostalgic connection, but I loved what
it's on Disney Plus.
That's true. We did just go through a whole like animated thing with Disney Channel, so maybe I'll give X-Men a try too.
I will say, if you haven't watched an animated series from the 90s and like you have no connection to it, it is difficult to go back. That's for sure. But I still like, there's great characters and some great stories. So yeah, it's really fun.
My boy,
Benji, are you excited for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think like all those, you know, everyone I know that is a Marvel fan now, like started, I mean, of a certain age, started with this show. I mean, it was serialized storytelling. It had these long arcs, like Phoenix Saga, a Dark Phoenix Saga, it had all sorts of things. And I've rewatched a few episodes. I mean, obviously it's 90s television animation, but it from a storytelling perspective, I still think it works. And it's the X-Men it's like that X-Men team that you always wanted. Like, it's just, this is not a group that was like in the comics, right? Like, this was like their own version but so many people grew up with it that they associate this with like what the X-Men are. So I'm really excited to see. Everyone at Marvel loves their show, so I'm excited to see, kind of like how DuckTales was sort of a love letter to the Disney afternoon. I'm hoping this is a way to just bring that kind of energy back. I mean, especially since if you read comic books, the X-Men are nowhere near what this show is. It's nice to go back to sort of, the team and Xavier in X-Mansion and all that stuff, and sort of a classic take.
Yeah, I'm definitely really looking forward to it. I am one of those people that this was like my introduction to Marvel. So this is going to be a lot of fun. And the original cast is returning to voice these characters, which is just so cool. Plus some new cast members, of course. But bringing those familiar voices is just going to be really, really fun. Next announcement we got.
Theme song?
They have to, right? I mean, I would assume they're going to update it a little bit, but you can't completely change it. Yes, now that song is stuck in everyone's head, we will move on to Echo. Which, hang on, sorry, I gotta acknowledge Kyle's comment. Yes. Fun fact: my first dog was named Jubilee because of that animated series. So.
Aww.
No one gets more 90s than Jubilee in this show.
Right. Anyway, moving on to Echo, the live action series spinning out of Hawkeye. I'm kind of surprised by this because they announced it before we even got to see the character in Hawkeye, and I guess that's just the timing of Disney Plus Day, and the release date of Hawkeye. But this is an awesome character that I can't wait for people to. I think she's going to become a fan favorite pretty quickly.
I will say you don't have to wait long for, and I'm not saying she's in the first episode, but she's in Echo. I mean, Hawkeye.
But you're not saying that?
Well, no, she's not. I will say she's not in the first episode. But knowing it's actually when you watch, if you watch Hawkeye, knowing it changes how you watch Hawkeye. So I am surprised that they kind of acknowledged it already. But I will say now I know when I watch Hawkeye the second time, I'll be like, I don't have to go, oh, I wonder if that's Echo. Now I can say probably fairly assuredly that is.
Becca, are you familiar at all with the character of Echo? Are you looking forward to this one?
Not familiar with the character, just what I've heard that she's going to be part of the Hawkeye series, but I'm definitely intrigued. So, like you guys were saying, with her being maybe not in the first episode and having a series already, like they seem pretty confident with how this character is going to be received. So I trust them. I'm looking forward to it.
Spoiler alert. They don't mention the Phoenix Force in Hawkeye.
Within the first few seconds of meeting Echo, they don't tease that that's going to be coming in 100 years. I'm not surprised by that one, but definitely excited for Echo, for Maya Lopez, such an interesting character. Lots of ties to the Avengers and Clint Barton's past, and the Hand as well, which I'm really curious to see if they do anything with that, but we'll see where they go with that. The next announcement was Agatha, House of Harkness, a WandaVision spinoff focused on, obviously, Agatha Harkness. It had been reported that a spinoff of some sort was coming, but now we know for sure. And I'm not sure what to make of this name. I don't know where we're going with Agatha here. Is this going to be?
I feel like it's a prequel, right?
Yeah, that's the vibe I get. But
I would think prequel and her like creepy basement thing. Are they farther along with the production of this than we realize, or is it just like we got a logo together for Disney Plus Day?
I don't believe that it is in production.
So
Yeah.
it's still early stages, or like would they have started pre-production?
I think it's pre-production, but
yeah, I feel like we would have gotten some casting news aside from just Catherine Hahn at this point, but by now we would have learned who's playing Mephisto, and so we would...
one day we're gonna get Mephisto.
This one is the one that surprised me the most. Marvel Zombies, an animated series spinning out of What If. This was my favorite episode of What If. I love the Marvel Zombies comics. I'm really excited about this, but it definitely caught me off guard. I didn't know that there would be, really like people clamoring for this series.
So I was a little behind. So I actually watched them assembled on What If, and there's a scene where Brad Winbaum says, and some of these could even be their own shows. And like they show us the Marvel Zombies.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, are they making a Marvel Zombie show? And then when we got the sort of embargo, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, looking back on that now, it's kind of like, oh, how did I not notice that? But watching it the first time, I definitely did not like catch on to that. But yeah, so Becca, are you looking forward to Marvel Zombies?
I'm not a really big zombie fan. I'm open to checking this out. I've not been disappointed by Marvel yet, but I'm like, if it was Marvel vampires, I'd be there.
Well, we do have a Blade movie coming.
I know. I'm excited.
Also, some rumors regarding Moon Knight that we can talk about after the show. But
I want to know about this.
Ben, you've read the Marvel Zombies comics, right?
No, I mean not significantly. I'm not a huge zombie fan, but I did like the What If Marvel Zombie episode. So, I'm not super into the. I have a hard enough time keeping track of the reality that the 616 reality. I don't need to go venture off all that much, but I'm excited more that they're Marvel Studios with this and X-Men 97 is getting into the animation business.
Yes,
more than just one show. So I'm excited just to have that pipeline filled.
How funny how everything like comes around again. Like we were watching cartoons as kids, now we're adults, and we're like, I shouldn't say cartoons, I should say animated shows, but that's what we're still excited for.
Our next, speaking of animation, SpiderMan freshman year. And we didn't get really any information about any of these shows, but to me, this tells me like this is going to be sort of the origin story for our Peter Parker that we didn't get. That is at least what my guess would be.
Well, they said that it was his first year, like basically the first year of him being Spider-Man. So before Tony Stark visits him in Queens.
Okay.
And so if you think of the three movies as fresh sophomore year, junior year, senior year, then this is the sort of prequel of that. Okay. So it's the Peter Parker that, from Homecoming and all that. But before that movie, before we meet Spider-Man in the MCU, they didn't want to do the retelling of, got bitten by a radioactive spider again. I believe in that has already been told in a Spider-Man film. But, sort of the young Spider-Man without any help from the Avengers, just, figuring out how to be helpful.
Well, are we going to get the Uncle Ben bit in this, or is it just like completely? You think they'll just completely jump into he's Spider-Man?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, Uncle Ben, that would come after he was bitten and started becoming Spider-Man. So, I mean, they could do, they could skip the true origin, but then still get the Uncle Ben moment as well. So, yeah, really interesting. I'm excited because
who do you think would play Uncle? I mean, in the MCU we never met Uncle Ben, but we have Aunt May, who is Marissa Tomei. Who would be the Uncle Ben?
A random name that just came to the top of my head for no reason at all. John Hamm. That's my Uncle Ben right there.
Oh, okay.
Because here's the thing that I'm glad the MCU finally addressed, and I've never quite understood it in the comics, the animated series, any other movie. If it's the uncle and aunt, how come they're like 800 years old when they should just be your parents' age? Like they shouldn't be your grandparents.
Right.
And it's like it was like your great uncle. Why
Yeah.
are they so much older than what a parent would be?
It's a very good question. I mean, you're right. Marissa Tomei makes more sense than some of the previous Aunt Mays we've had, but I
Rosemary Harris. But God,
Yeah.
I love her.
yeah, she was fantastic.
And no,
Eve, I
like
think,
and great. And like I mean, it's nice to have that grandmotherly like
Mhm.
like I mean it was great in the cartoon where she was literally like 9,000 years old. In the comics, she's always presented as fairly older.
oh
But
yeah,
it is like unless like Peter Parker was a late in life baby or like there's a huge
Right.
gap in but in any case.
Kyle, I was thinking the exact same thing. I couldn't remember his last name was Alexander. But yes,
Benji, I
Seinfeld.
don't know. Sorry, Becca. Benji, I don't know if you saw this, but Dan Slott was trying to start the rumor that Jason Alexander will be playing Uncle Ben in the MCU, and he was trying to spread that around. So that was really funny to see.
Dan Slott causing trouble.
Okay, so after getting those new announcements, we also got that special on Disney Plus, giving us our first looks at Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and a quick look at Secret Invasion. So, Moon Knight. Obviously, I'm excited for Moon Knight. I mean, that's not a secret at all. But they seem to be pushing the Disney Plus envelope just a little bit, which makes me happy to see because Moon Knight is an ultra-violent character. And I'm very curious to see how far they let him go on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what other things they have on Disney Plus that you're like, really? But I don't know. What's with his voice though? Like that was supposed to be Mark Spector, right?
Well,
Speaking.
yes, there's multiple voices you hear in that sneak peek. And I'm very curious. Honestly, first of all, let me preface this. I'm terrible at recognizing people's voices. It could be anyone. I would have no idea who was talking, but
it was Gilbert Gottfried.
Very possible. It could have been, yes. Gilbert Gottfried and Adele. It could have been either one of those two. I'm not sure. But yeah, so you do hear two different voices. And I wonder if both of them are not Oscar Isaac, because he does have that multiple personality disorder, and maybe he is changing his voice with the personality. So I don't know. I'm not sure where they go with it, but there is that sort of deeper, raspy voice that I'm guessing is him with the costume on. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see where they go with that. As I mentioned, we had a first look at She-Hulk as well, which this one gave us, I think, less of a look than what we got for Moon Knight and Miss Marvel as well. But definitely a more fun, playful vibe with this one. There's that like 80s commercial where he looks into the camera and says, "You won't like me when I'm angry," which was fantastic. We get a fair amount of Bruce in this as well. So, and we knew he was going to be popping back up as the Hulk. So that was really cool. I'm excited for a different genre almost here. I mean,
this is an outright comedy, right? Like,
yeah, that's what it seems like. I mean, and having Abomination come back, I think like it adds a really funny potential aspect to it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this a lot. And then we got Miss Marvel, which I loved everything about this. I mean, her putting on the Captain Marvel Halloween costume. This feels like, I mean, almost as much as Hawkeye, because everything going on with Hawkeye that I've seen so far feels like it's ripped directly from the comics. This feels very close to that as well. I mean, there's so many moments where you're like, oh, I read these words on a page before. And so it looks really, really fun. We should mention this was supposed to be late this year originally, and then got delayed to summer 2022. So it's going to be a while before we see Miss Marvel. I'm under the impression that we'll be seeing the other two series before Miss Marvel. We don't know for sure, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. My guess is we won't pretty much ever again for the rest of our lives wait too long for the next Marvel project. So I'm thinking something is going to jump over Miss Marvel here.
Yeah, that would make sense because there's kind of a big gap otherwise. But Yeah, this looks fun. At first glance, when I saw her in the costume in this photo that we have on the screen right now, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what are they doing?" And then I was like, "Oh no, that's right. Captain Marvel is like one of her idols or heroes." And so it's like, okay, it makes sense she's wearing a costume.
Yeah, I love the plastic hair coming out of
Yeah.
the top and everything. It's perfect.
Well, we do know that this leads into the Marvels too.
Mhm.
So.
That's
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, so really curious to see how they bridge this series to that movie. Of those three that we saw the sneak peek for, which one are you guys most looking forward to?
Oh, Moon Knight, definitely.
For me, I think it's She-Hulk, just because it's going to be different. Like, we haven't had a I mean, they're building this as a comedy,
Yeah,
and we haven't had I mean, we've obviously had lighthearted moments, but like we haven't had like a ha 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 comedy.
right.
So I'm curious to see. I think Ms. Marvel initially strikes you a little too close to Hawkeye, but I mean, I'm sure very differently once we get a little bit more. But so I think I'm just looking for different, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and Becca, I'm with you tonight, but I can't wait for any one of these. Like, if you told me these were coming out in any order, I would not care. I can't wait to watch every single one of them. Speaking of, and actually the one that I am most looking forward to, we did get this brief glimpse of Secret Invasion and Nick Fury looking all kinds of stressed out, as he should be.
Is that Nick Fury?
So,
that's Nick Fury?
That's a fair point. We don't know, and to be honest, we don't know that we've got a first look at Moon Knight, She-Hulk, or Miss Marvel either. None of them could be real. So we'll see where this goes. But I cannot wait. We've talked about the multiverse blowing people's minds. I think Secret Invasion is going to be on that same level, and I hope this branches out to more than just like they let this story breathe a little bit more than just this one limited series here, but. Because this is one of my favorite comic arcs and should make for a crazy MCU event for sure. And Kyle has some feedback for us. Yeah, good pick.
It's been a while.
Skrull?
He corrected it.
He did. Hang on, there you go.
Oh, Skrull, gotcha. No, I understand.
Your guys' thoughts on Secret Invasion? Anything? Does this jump those other three for you like it does for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Secret Invasion, right?
I don't know. It's up there. It's up there.
Well, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I would expect to hear. Benji, who has read however many thousands of comics, and the nerds that we are just know how great this story is and how big of an impact it can have. We are obviously going to be super excited for this series. And then, Becca, the more, MCU fan, you've read a few comics here and there.
That's true.
But it makes more sense to be more excited for something like Moon Knight or She-Hulk, where you're seeing those characters and they're these more relatable characters. And Secret Invasion just gives us bearded Nick Fury here. And that's, nothing more. So
is that Nick Fury?
Again, yes.
Right. Or maybe Talos or who knows.
By the way, I don't know if you guys heard, but there was a trailer that came out last night. Some people might have gotten excited about it.
Got my Doctor Strange robe again because this is, the only time.
Man! Full disclosure: I am traveling. I saw it on the world's tiniest screen. I have not seen all the detail. I've not gone online to see all that fun, but so just. Acknowledging that, I would love to hear your take.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only one here, but I don't remember there being a fan event for the launch of a trailer where people like influencers went into a theater and watched a trailer get released and nothing else. That to me is
Pirates 2.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I can see that. Okay.
I went all the way to Miami.
Okay, then. Well, so I stand corrected there, but this was definitely a major. I had, 6 or 7 people texting me yesterday, like, how long do we have until the trailer drops? Or are you ready for the trailer? And like, yes, it's there's a movie coming out next month that they are going to tease a little bit of it. That's how marketing works. But so yeah, it was exciting for sure. Becca, what did you think of this trailer?
I loved it. I was partially expecting to see Toby and Andrew. I'm like 90% sure they're going to be in the movie, but there's that 10% of me that's like, watch Marvel say, you all think you know what's going to happen, but it's not going to happen. So I love what they did. I love that we didn't get too many like reveals or anything. And we know that Marvel always messes with the trailers. Like at Infinity War, for example, there were so many things in there that they showed in the trailer that were not in the movie or were changed for the movie. But this looks really fun, really different. I don't know what to think about Doctor Strange because he seems more antagonistic than I'm used to, and I feel like I like Peter Parker so much that I don't want him to have this like animosity with another Avenger. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
See, in the comics, Doctor Strange like pisses off everybody because he's like on this other plane. He's kind of arrogant to begin with, and so it's like, you know, you can't understand what you've done. You're messing with like that. That's his thing, right? Like the Avengers are always pissing him, and I think the death of Doctor Strange, like where they really channel like 70s Doctor Strange, is a perfect example. But like, I mean, so I think you see Sandman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we obviously get more of Dr. Octopus in this trailer. We get more Green Goblin. I guess we only really saw him in posters previously, but so his arrival was not really much of a surprise.
But do we know if it's William Dafoe?
We don't. There's a voice that sounds
like his,
very much like Willem Dafoe for sure, but we don't see a face or anything like that. We knew Jamie Foxx was reprising his role as Electro. We see him. And then a little bit more of a surprise, we do see the Lizard coming back. And then my issue here is Doctor Strange points out like the whole story arc here is their destiny is they die fighting Spider-Man. And that's sort of the story of this movie. And Peter is wrestling with that and wants to save them. At least how this trailer makes it seem. We know, things get cut differently. But of these villains, so there's 5 of them, Sandman does not die fighting Spider-Man. He walks away at the end of Spider-Man 3. So I'm very curious what they're telling us with that little tidbit there and, what that means for this character. Is this from a different universe? Does something happen after Spider-Man 3 that we didn't see? I don't know. Lots of variables there, obviously, coming out of a trailer, that's not surprising. So
do you think that everyone except Doc Ock will be played by Ross Marquand?
I made that joke to Kyle. I was like, I think that's Willem Dafoe, but it could be Ross Marquand. I don't know. By the way, so Benji, I side with you on the Doctor Strange thought. That is a very popular theory out there that people seem that something is off with Doctor Strange. And
is that Doctor Strange?
Right. Well, yeah. That's the thought though, that it's not actually Doctor Strange. And I like I said, I agree. Doctor Strange does tend to get on people's bad side sometimes, and I don't necessarily think something's wrong with him. But this story does seem familiar, where Peter is trying to get people to forget that he's Spider-Man, and a certain villain steps in and does some stuff that I'm not going to say his name again, but I think you know who it is. It's possible. I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh my gosh!
It's Mephisto, right?
I'm gonna. This is like Mephisto's gonna be my Disney Person of the Year. Like, every time I turn around, someone's like, "Is that Mephisto?" And
we at least like have him as a nominee or something. Just I want to.
In the end of the, I don't know what the technical name of it, but the Kindred arc, it was like Doctor Strange and Mephisto betting on Peter Parker's life.
Yeah. Yeah, Mephisto has a lot of ties to Spider-Man, so I don't know. I'm not saying it's him. I'm just saying there's an angle.
We don't have confirmation yet, right? That any other Spider people will be in this.
No, we don't. I don't think
we do not.
But we're fans who know all, and we're like certain that
We do not know that they are going to be in this movie.
Alex read a tweet to me as something that's like, what was it? Andrew Garfield should win an Oscar for his performance in pretending he wasn't in Spider-Man No Way Home this year.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he's been hilarious to watch in interviews, that's for sure.
I know they talked to, or there were talks about having Kirsten Dunst and Emma Stone reprise their roles from the various universe or franchises. But yeah, we haven't seen or really heard any other confirmation, right? Like, we don't even technically know that if they're in here. I was actually hoping they would be in the trailer. I was like, I want to see MJ and Gwen before the Peters.
I want to see with Sally Field and Marissa Tomei, and Marissa Tomei is like, "Wow, you're really old."
and then Rosemary Harris walks in and
and she looks at her and says, "Never mind."
Exactly.
Yeah, for some reason, the one actor who the rumor sites have been like, okay, I believe you when you say you're not in this movie, is Kirsten Dunst. Because everybody else has been like, no, I'm not in the movie. And they're like, you're in the movie. Kirsten Dunst says, nope, I'm not in. And they're like, okay. But yeah, that seems to be the way that's going. Everybody's all excited to see Andrew and Toby pop up. I'm personally looking forward to seeing Charlie pop up in this movie, going back to Daredevil.
Do you think that might be the route they're going to take?
I definitely think that's a possibility. I will say this. I think that's more likely than Mephisto.
Maybe Charlie is Mephisto.
It's possibly a Skrull too. It's going to be so hard to believe anything we see in these movies.
Yeah.
All right, so jumping out of the MCU back into comics as we come full circle here, we got we got the cover and then variant covers for the 10 Lives of Wolverine, but for whatever reason, whenever I read these X-Men titles, it is the X Lives of Wolverine, and it throws me off every single time. So like X of Swords got me every time too. So I'm definitely looking forward to this though. Wolverine, obviously a very interesting character, and this is going to go through his history. And you see right here, this the classic, the original Wolverine look. I love that they included that. And you can see all the variant covers, which were really, really amazing on Laughing Place right now.
Do you think that X means you have to solve for X? So there's like an actual number there, but you just have to figure out the equation?
Listen, the X books are complicated enough. Don't add math.
Well, but like, isn't like it was powers of 10, even though it was powers of X?
Right. Yeah. House of X, powers of 10. Right? Or powers of X? No. Yeah. House of X, powers of 10.
Yeah, so is this 10 Lives of Wolverine or is this X Lives of Wolverine?
Is it 10 Lives of Wolverine, X Deaths of Wolverine? I don't know. But that will be coming in January. February, we have the 30th anniversary of Carnage, which seems weird. Like, Carnage to me is still a new character.
If you said 30th anniversary of Venom. I would have like, okay.
Venom.
Right. Yeah, no, Carnage, the spin-off character of Venom, who is the spin-off character of Spider-Man. So, yeah, Carnage Forever will be coming in February, and we're kind of gonna look through this character's history, the ultra crazy, violent, bloody history of this wild character. So
what's interesting about Carnage Forever is I know the ending. It's a whole new world.
Okay.
We come to Marvel time for it. Epcot Forever jokes.
We got another really interesting one here. What if Miles Morales, taking advantage of the popularity of What If right now? And Marvel tweeted the day before they actually announced this, just sort of a Wolverine Miles mashup, and everybody looked at that was like, what is happening here? I guess they're just going to do a completely different What If comic arc. But it's specific to Miles Morales, and he's actually going to take up the legacy of all different characters. Obviously, Captain America, Doctor Strange was another one, the Hulk. So you're going to see a lot of different variations of Miles Morales. This will be coming in March, and Miles obviously a wildly popular character in recent years, so this should be a lot of fun. And then finally, Benji, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. the death of Doctor Strange. We didn't get a lot of information here, but this threw me off because they're telling us a new Sorcerer Supreme will arise at the end of this in March. I remember when they started Death of Doctor Strange, and there was that cover where there was this silhouette, and we're like, oh, who is replacing Doctor Strange? And it turned out it was Doctor Strange. I just kind of assumed it would be Doctor Strange at the end of this. Now is it like a fool me once, fool me twice kind of scenario here, or are they actually going to give us a new Sorcerer Supreme?
He's got a funny looking skull, doesn't he?
Very wide jaw, almost snake-like.
So it's Jafar.
I was gonna say that's what I was thinking too.
That was his next wish. So yeah, that does it. I mean, obviously, we've had just a crazy amount of Marvel stuff going on in the past. That's just in the past week. Like all of that was in the past week. I mean, obviously, Eternals came out a couple weeks ago, but everything else, that's crazy. And now we have Hawkeye next week. So
it feels somewhat indulgent, but it still doesn't feel like too much. You know how sometimes you're just like, I cannot consume anymore. I'm like, no, I've got room.
Too much. I mean, that's too much on the Marvel side, but everything else, too much. Benji needs vacation.
Yes, too much of everything else. But as far as Marvel goes, I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I can agree with you there for sure. But the nice thing about it is if you're just an MCU fan, you don't have to worry about Hitmonkey. You don't have to watch the Assembled and stuff like that. They're great. I highly recommend checking them out if you have the time for them. But, if you want to just streamline your viewing, just watch the main stuff. And that's granted, that's still a whole lot, but it's less than everything we just talked about. So we're going to remain very busy for quite a while. As we, take advantage of the 1 week we get between movies and TV shows at this point. Like Becca mentioned earlier, Zacks of Life will be coming back. So we'll be back on Monday talking about Eternals, breaking that down, and then we'll be getting into Hawkeye right after that. So we're back in the full swing of things now in the Marvel realm.
Yes. There we go.
Is that really Kyle?
Oh,
I don't know. He has been odd. He has been
what
very
if Kyle
odd.
is this week's scroll?
If Kyle's being odd, then it's probably him.
No, it's odder than his normal odd.
You're married
I don't know. He does accuse
I
a lot of
love
other
you,
people
Kyle.
of being skulls, so maybe. All right. Anything else before we wrap up for today?
No. Trust us, you want to follow us the next couple days. Through Sunday at least.
Yeah, it's going to be just a little bit of a busy weekend. All right.
So I'm going to go to bed. Get ready.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.